Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Courtney. I am a homeschool mom to two boys. I have a 2.5-year-old and an almost 5-year-old. So typically on this channel, I do a lot that focuses on homeschool, motherhood, or Christian theology, and a lot typically revolves around books. I'm a book lover, and so in this video I wanted to give you guys some recommendations for books or resources that I think would be beneficial as Christians to have on your bookshelf, and they are going to have to do with apologetics. Well, what is apologetics? So apologetics is going to be an area of Christian theology that we would talk about as the defense of our faith. You start talking about apologetics and you start learning about it, you will learn very quickly that we typically place evangelism as well as apologetics together on the same coin. So evangelism is going to be when you're talking to people and you're going to be sharing the gospel with them, talking to them about Jesus and the Bible and salvation. And on the other side of that same coin is going to be apologetics, which is going to be a defense of the faith. So making sure that we are giving people not only the hope that is within us and the reason why we have the hope that is within us, but that we're also giving them biblically accurate understanding of who Jesus is, who God is, and that's where kind of the defense of the faith comes in. So obviously within apologetics, it's going to have a lot of branches that come off of it. There are going to be a lot of focus on Christian cults and Christian counterfeits, false religions, and how to share the gospel with them, but also how to defend our faith against those who are coming opposing Christianity or possibly changing it, right? Where you're going to have a lot in the Christian cults where they're going to be pulling from Christianity, maybe even saying that they're Christians and going to be completely changing it, really. And so with apologetics, it is really important that you have an understanding of the Bible. That's key. Yes, it's important, I think, to understand the people we are confronting in a loving way. It is important to understand what they believe and why they believe it. You know, it's important that when somebody says they believe in Jesus, we need them to define who Jesus is. I mean, all of these things are important. It is important that if you're dealing with Mormons or Jehovah's Witness or, you know, whatever, that you kind of understand what they believe. And I think it does save time when you're going in and talking to them, that you already have a foundation of kind of understanding that. But no one's going to expect you to be a scholar in Mormonism or whatever. What's really important is that we have a really good understanding of the Bible and the biblical stances and what does the Bible say is the correct Jesus and the correct God. Let's go ahead and jump in. I'm going to go ahead and just list really quickly the books we're going to talk about. That way, if you don't want to sit and wait around for all of the books, or there's maybe just one that really your interest, you can kind of skip ahead and go to that one. So I don't actually have the hard copies of any of these books. These books I've either listened through Libby as an audiobook or I've read them through Libby. Again, Libby is a service that my library does. Some libraries do Libby or Hoopla. That is a wonderful resource to look into. And I also do through Audible. So if you don't have a library membership or you just can't wait to do that, then go ahead and do Audible through Amazon. It's wonderful. I've had no issues with that. We're going to talk about Evidence That Demands a Verdict by Josh McDowell and Sean McDowell. That is going to be kind of our definitive work for apologetics. And then we also are going to have The Case for Christ, and that is going to be by Lee Strobel. The next one is going to be More Than a Carpenter by Josh McDowell. We also are going to have Another Gospel by Elisa Childers. And then we have Defying Jihad, the dramatic true story of a woman who volunteered to kill infidels and then face death for becoming one, Esther Ahmed. And then we also have Seeking Allah and Finding Jesus, a Devout Muslim Encounters Christianity by Nabil Qureshi. So those are the ones I'm going to talk about in this video. At the end, I will probably throw in a few honorable mentions that kind of have to do with some of the topics we'll be talking about. I will definitely redirect you guys. I will list it below, but I have a video where I do just on the cults and the counterfeits and the false religions and specific books that are all about those. So if you're looking for an apologetic book that has to do specifically with something, I will refer you to that video. Link that video that I did separately down below, or I can put it up in the cards and you guys can go and watch that one. But I can, at the end of this video, go ahead and mention the books that I had in that video. And so if that piques your interest, then definitely click down below or go up here. But those I'll mention at the end, plus there probably will be a couple extra honorable mentions. So the first one we're going to go through is Evidence That Demands a Verdict. I'm going to be reading from my phone the actual description, so you're not getting Courtney's description. You're getting the description that the publisher or the author actually wrote about the book. And I'll also try to include a little bit of a B-roll. If you're a book lover like me, you usually like to flip through and see kind of the layout or the table of contents. And so you will be able to see that while I read. If you want to, you can pause it so you can actually read it. Okay, so Evidence That Demands a Verdict. This is an expansive defense of Christianity's core truth, rebuttals to some recent and popular forms of skepticism, and insightful responses to the Bible's most difficult and misused passages. You're going to have evidence for the Bible, evidence for Jesus, evidence for the Old Testament, and evidence for truth. And so this is really your hallmark for apologetics. If you have any doubts as a believer, or you're a new believer, you're a seasoned believer, and you have any doubts, or maybe you're kind of just looking into Christianity, but you have doubts, this book is a must read. I definitely would encourage you to do maybe the audiobook. If you are not a reader, the audiobook is the version I did, because it's a massive book and it's a lot of information. And even if you don't do the audiobook and you get the book, just pick and choose and read where you want and the different topics. But if you have any doubts, or you have people in your life that have any doubts, but definitely if you're coming from an apologetic standpoint as far as with evangelism and confronting people, maybe you have people in your life who are in, who attack Christianity or oppose it, this is the book for you. You are going to get a solid understanding of why the Bible is true, who is Jesus, and why was he a real person? What did he do? Do we have resources outside of the Bible that actually, historical evidence for this? I mean, this is the book for you. So, and that's so important when we're dealing with apologetics. Okay, the next book is going to be The Case for Christ, a journalist's personal investigation of the evidence for Jesus by Lee Strobel. Read any of the books by Lee Strobel. He's got ones on grace, he's got ones on faith, he's got ones on evidence if there's a creator. I mean, oh my. He's got one for Christmas, one for Easter. I love Lee Strobel. I love his writing especially for a mama who is, a little sleep deprived, currently potty training my second. Sometimes you just need an easy read that is also serving what you need to currently be studying, and apologetics is a big one for me. And so I definitely recommend Lee Strobel. He is just wonderful. And so The Case for Christ is definitely an apologetic book. This is one that is often given to new believers or people who are doubting Christianity or people who are opposing Christianity. And it is a phenomenal read. I believe they also made a movie of it. I don't know how accurate the movie is to the book. So the description for this one is there credible evidence that Jesus of Nazareth really is the Son of God? Former atheist and Chicago Tribune, journalist Lee Strobel takes an investigative look at the evidence from the fields of science, philosophy, and history. Okay, so the next book is More Than a Carpenter by Josh McDowell. And this one is a super popular one that a lot of people use this as a missionary resource when they are going out and sharing the gospel in other countries. But this is a wonderful book for you to read. And Josh McDowell, so he was a very long time skeptic, and he thought Christians were out of their minds, it says. He ridiculed and insulted them, then decided to combat them with his own robust research to disprove the claims of Jesus Christ. To his surprise, he discovered that the evidence suggested exactly the opposite, that Jesus, instead of being simply a first century Hebrew carpenter, was so much more. And so this is a great one if you're comfortable confronting people in a loving way who are in the cults or who have some form of distorted view or understanding of Jesus. This could be people who are caught up in moralistic or mysticism, mythical religions, who maybe have a little bit of an understanding of Jesus or have their own version of Jesus. This is a wonderful one for them. And this one is so edifying, I find, even as a Christian, just to read for my personal faith and my personal walk with Christ. And Josh McDowell, like I said, is the writer, and he is also the one who did Evidence that demands a verdict. And so we often see that people who come to attack and disprove Christianity end up becoming Christians themselves and writing phenomenal books. Not all the time, but sometimes. Okay, so the next book is Another Gospel by Elisa Childers, and this is wonderful. I just listened to this one, I think a month ago. And so her book, it says, it describes the intellectual journey Elisa took over several years as she wrestled with a series of questions that struck at the core of the Christian faith. After everything she had ever believed about God, Jesus, and the Bible had been picked apart, she found herself at the brink of despair until God rescued her, helping her to rebuild her faith one solid brick at a time. Elisa Childers is the author of that book, and she has a podcast. I think she has other books that I have not read, and they're definitely on my list. I was thinking one is on like deconstructing. And so this book is wonderful, and how she kind of describes her whole journey. And I think that it is definitely for any believer. I think we can all kind of relate to Elisa and her journey as to people saying certain things and you going, oh, really? Well, I mean, that's not what I learned. And, kind of creating that foundation of doubts. We've all gone through that at some point in our Christian faith, whether it's because somebody brought that on to us or because we watched something or, the culture raises concern about something and we kind of create that doubt. And so her book is definitely relatable for a lot of people. I would say for a lot of people who are in college or getting ready to go to college, this is a great one for parents to read, but also for their child who is going into college to read. Okay, so the next one is going to be on defying jihad, and this is the dramatic true story of a woman who volunteered to kill infidels and then face death for becoming one, by Esther Ahmed. If I'm saying her name right, I apologize if I'm not. Her book is Defying Jihad is the true story of a girl growing up under radical Islamic rule, trained to believe her ultimate purpose was to serve Allah by dying as a jihadist, but 2 nights before she was to leave forever, she had a dream, one that would change the course of her destiny. And I listened to this on my Libby app, or it might have been through Audible, I can't remember, and it was so powerful. The audiobook was fantastic, and it is definitely one I will re-listen to or even reread. This is a copy I would definitely buy. Her story is so powerful, and to find somebody who is so it is in another religion, but is also like completely opposing Christianity, and to hear how powerful her story is, I mean, is an amazing, not only an amazing edification for a Christian, but it is amazing evangelistic tool, particularly to people who are caught up in the religion of Islam. And I think even as a Christian who maybe if you don't know a lot about Islam, her story is very eye-opening for that. So I definitely recommend her book. The next one is Seeking Allah, Finding Jesus, a Devout Muslim Encounters Christianity by Nabil Qureshi. And so Nabil Qureshi is such a powerful, he is such an amazing author. He did pass away and he's no longer with us, but he left an amazing testimony, and his whole story in the book is all about him saying how powerful and so amazing Islam is, and just its history. And you can tell he's just a very proud Muslim, and then it just all falls apart. And so to have his story of going from where I would believe a lot of Muslims stand is you're so firm on your foundation of your religion, and then when that foundation starts to crumble, and what's amazing is what is crumbling his foundation is the power and the truth and the love of Christianity, and him going from what he thought was true and realizing it wasn't true and it had a sinking foundation to then go to the sure, strong, true foundation of Christianity. Amazing. His story will be a reread for me, may even be a purchase as well. I highly recommend that one. Okay, so now, like I said, if you will, I will link it below, but the video that I had that is specifically on cults, counterfeits, as well as false religions. So if you're curious about Islam and what they believe, and you are wanting to know that, I have that video below that you can go. But I'll go ahead and mention some of the books I included in that video. So if that interests you, you can go to that. I would say, of course, if you want, I would say specifically, I had to reach for it, sorry, specifically for understanding people who hold to a different religion or a counterfeit of Christianity or a cult, you definitely are going to want to look into the kingdom of the cults. I described this in detail in that video. Dr. Walter Martin is the author of that, and he is, I mean, this is the definitive work if you want to know anything about the cults. And then, of course, the kingdom of the occult. That's going to get into a lot of New Age practices and paganism, neo-paganism, witchcraft, all that kind of stuff. And what's amazing is how today, post this book, but today how that has infiltrated the Christian church. But if you're just curious about why do people practice those things, why do they believe those things, why is that coming into the church, this is a great book for you. Now, this is a 3-volume set that I describe in that video. If you want to go and watch it, we go into volume 1. This is going to be the counterfeits of Christianity. This is going to go into Roman Catholicism, Eastern Orthodox, as why are they different, not necessarily why they are false, but just how they are different, because they are different. But then it's also going to go heavily into detail of, Mormonism, Jehovah's Witness, etc., etc. It's going to go into Islam. You can see a lot of the symbols in here. It goes into Judaism and how that has fallen away from biblical truth. And this is a wonderful resource. So if you have any, from an apologetic standpoint, any curiosity in that, we also have volume 2. This is going to be moralistic, mythical, and mysticism religions, very heavily focused on the Eastern religions of the Orient, but it is going to get a lot into New Age practices and paganism and all those kinds of things. This is one. And then we have the last one in that series I talked about was atheistic and humanistic religions. This one's going to be really big with our current culture. A lot of people are going to college and they are falling away from the faith. They're coming home as atheists, agnostics. They are into this postmodernism. They're embracing things. And the question is why? Why? And so this book kind of helps understand that. All 3 of these books, I definitely would advise buying them together. They have wonderful appendix in the back. And again, in that video below, if you just don't want to repeat it, if you guys have already watched that video, but if you click it down below, the appendix is wonderful. The last couple of resources I have, this one is the Rose Bible Charts. I'm trying to look at it in the viewfinder. Rose Book of Bible Charts and Maps and Timeline. This is a book that is just wonderful for all sorts of divisions of Christian resources, but it does have a really good section on the denominations of Christianity, as well as the cults and the cults of Christianity, the counterfeits of Christianity, as well as false religions. And it has so many wonderful resources on just like the Trinity, because a lot of cults are going to attack that. It also goes into a lot of detail on like misunderstandings that false religions, cults, and counterfeits have, and how do we answer those. So this is a wonderful book for so many different topics, but it has a wonderful section on apologetics of answering some of those misunderstandings. Was Jesus really God? Was Jesus fully human? And really starting to break those down. Trinity is not mentioned in the Bible, like different things like that. Now, the other 2 I did mention, and that was going to be the counterfeit kingdom. This is going to go into the NAR, so the New Apostolic Reformation. It also is going to get into, it says like New Age practices in the church, so kind of what I was talking about with Dr. Walter Martin's Kingdom of the Occult. And then I also talked about the Strange Fire book by John MacArthur, which really is going to go into hyper-charismatic, hyper-Pentecostal, a lot of the practices they are doing in the name of the Holy Spirit. And so very powerful. If you want to hear more about that, you can click that link below and go into and see that video. So if you liked this video, I would love if you would subscribe. Also, I would like if you would like this video because it tells me that you guys like my recommendations, but more than anything, videos are helpful in some sense. It also lets me know to keep doing these videos. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I would love to hear your comments below. Apologetic resources that you guys would recommend from a Christian standpoint and a Christian viewpoint. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.